The old man didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just stood there quietly while everyone watched him get humiliated. "Sir, you don't belong in first class," the attendant said, loud enough for others to hear. A few passengers laughed. One even recorded him. But nobody in that airport knew that in less than 10 minutes, everything was about to change. The airport was loud that morning. Suitcases rolled across polished floors. Boarding announcements echoed overhead. People moved fast, like every second mattered. And right in the middle of all that noise, walked a man nobody noticed. His name was Mr. Jefferson. He looked ordinary. Older. Quiet. Dressed in simple clothes that didn't match the luxury around him. No designer suit. No expensive watch. No sign that he belonged anywhere near first class. But the strange thing was, he didn't look lost. His steps were steady. Calm. Like someone who knew exactly where he was going. Up ahead, passengers were already gathering near the first-class gate. You could tell who they were instantly. Sharp suits. Polished shoes. Confident smiles. These were people used to priority. Used to being treated differently. And then, there was Mr. Jefferson. As he walked toward the first-class line, a few heads turned. A woman glanced at him, then looked away with a slight frown. Two men standing nearby exchanged looks, one of them smirked, whispering something under his breath. It started small. Just look. Then whispers. Then quiet judgment. Because in a place like this, people don't just see you. They measure you. And according to them, Mr. Jefferson didn't belong there. But he didn't react. No hesitation. No doubt. Just quiet confidence as he stepped forward and took his place in line. Right where everyone believed he shouldn't be. And that's when everything began. "Sir, excuse me." The voice was polite but firm. Mr. Jefferson stopped. A flight attendant stood in front of him, her smile tight, rehearsed. "This line is for first-class passengers only." There was a slight pause. The kind that makes people turn and look. Mr. Jefferson met her eyes calmly. "I'm aware," he said. That should have ended it. But it didn't. The attendant glanced him up and down again, slower this time. As if she needed to be absolutely sure. "I'll need to see your boarding pass, sir." Now more people were watching. The whispers came back a little louder this time. "He's in the wrong line." Probably confused. Or just trying his luck. A man a few steps behind shook his head, clearly irritated. Mr. Jefferson reached into his pocket, slowly. Not nervous. Not rushed. Just calm. He handed her the boarding pass. She took it, barely looking at him, and scanned it quickly. Then her expression changed. Not a shock. Not respect. Just suspicion. She looked at the screen again. Then back at him. Then again. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her tone no longer friendly. "There must be some kind of mistake." A few passengers chuckled. One woman folded her arms, watching like it was entertainment. "You'll need to step aside while we sort this out." She gestured away from the line. Not a request. An instruction. The line behind him shifted impatiently. People sigh. Checking their watches. As if he was the problem. As if he was delaying something important. Mr. Jefferson didn't move. Not immediately. He simply looked at her. Calm. Unreadable. Almost like he'd seen this before. And that made her uncomfortable. "Sir," she repeated, a little sharper this time, "please step out of the line." Another pause. Longer now. He slowly took back his boarding pass. Hold it for a moment. Then he looked up again. Still calm. Still composed. But now, something in the air had changed. Because this wasn't confusing anymore. This was a rejection. And everyone around them could feel it. What they didn't know was that they had just made a mistake they couldn't undo. The silence didn't last long. Ron Collins stepped forward, clearly irritated now. "Come on, man," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're holding up the entire line." A few people nodded in agreement. Linda Holmes shook her head, her voice sharp with judgment. "This is exactly what's wrong these days. People just walk into places they don't belong." Another wave of quiet laughter spread. Sophia Toms kept her phone raised, capturing everything. Mr. Jefferson stood there, still calm. Still saying nothing. And somehow, that made it worse. Cynthia crossed her arms slightly, her patience thinning. "Sir, if you don't step aside, I'll have to call security." That word changed the energy instantly. Security. Now it wasn't just embarrassing. It was serious. Jason Mike let out a low whistle. Wow, this just got interesting. A few passengers shifted closer, not to help, but to watch. Because now, it wasn't just a situation. It was a scene. Mr. Jefferson finally moved. But not the way they expected. He didn't step out of the line. Instead, he adjusted his jacket slightly. A small, almost unnoticeable movement. Then he looked at Cynthia. Calm. Unshaken. "If there's a problem," he said quietly, "then call whoever you need to." That response caught her off guard. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't angry. It was certain. Cynthia hesitated for a second, just a second. Then she turned to the side. "Markin," she called out. A tall security officer began walking toward them. Markin Hill. His presence alone shifted the mood. Conversations quieted. People straightened. Because now, this had gone too far to ignore. Ron Collins smirked slightly. Finally, he muttered. Linda Holmes leaned in, whispering, "This should have happened from the beginning." Markin approached, his expression neutral but firm. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. Cynthia gestured toward Mr. Jefferson. "Yes," she said. "This gentleman is refusing to leave the first-class line." Markin turned his attention to Mr. Jefferson. For the first time, someone actually looked at him properly. Not just his clothes. Not just his appearance. But him. "Sir," Markin said calmly, "I'm going to need you to step aside with me." Another pause. The longest one yet. Every eye was on him now. Waiting. Expecting. Almost hoping that he would finally give in. But Mr. Jefferson didn't move. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at Marcus, then at Cynthia, then briefly at the crowd around him. And for the first time, there was the slightest hint of something in his expression. Not anger. Not fear. Something else. Something deeper. Then he spoke. "Go ahead," he said quietly. "Call your supervisor too." That line landed differently. Marcus frowned slightly. Cynthia blinked. Even Ron Collins stopped talking. Because something about the way he said it didn't sound like a request. It sounded like a warning. And suddenly, this situation didn't feel so simple anymore. For a moment, no one moved. Markin Hill studied Mr. Jefferson more carefully now. Not just a quick glance. A real look. Something about him didn't match the situation. Most people, in this moment, would be nervous. Defensive. Embarrassed. But not him. He stood there like none of this bothered him at all. Like he wasn't the one being surrounded. Like he wasn't the one being questioned. And that was unusual. Cynthia Carter shifted slightly, trying to regain control of the situation. "Benjamin," she called out, her voice tighter now. From across the gate, a man in a dark suit began walking toward them. Benjamin Brooks. The gate supervisor. Confident. Sharp. The kind of man who handled problems quickly. As he approached, the crowd parted just enough to let him through. What's going on? Benjamin asked, his tone direct. Cynthia spoke first. This gentleman is in the first-class line, but there seems to be an issue with his ticket, and he's refusing to step aside. Benjamin nodded slightly, already prepared to resolve it. Sir, he said, turning to Mr. Jefferson, I'm going to need to take a look at your boarding pass. Mr. Jefferson didn't argue. He handed it over. Same calm. Same steady movement. Benjamin took the ticket and glanced down. 1 second. 2 seconds. Then his expression changed. Very slightly. So subtle most people wouldn't notice. But Markin did. And so did Cynthia. Benjamin looked back at Mr. Jefferson. Then back at the boarding pass again. As if confirming what he was seeing. What's the issue? Cynthia asked quietly. Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed the ticket back. No issue, he said. Cynthia blinked. I'm sorry? Benjamin straightened. The boarding pass is valid. A small ripple moved through the crowd. Confusion. Ryan Cole frowned. Then what's the hold-up, he said. Cynthia hesitated, but, that doesn't make sense, she replied. She stopped herself. But it was too late. Everyone understood what she meant. He doesn't look like someone who belongs here. Benjamin glanced at her briefly. Then back at Mr. Jefferson. Something had shifted. Respect? Not yet. But caution. Yes, Benjamin said slowly, everything seems to be in order. That should have ended it. But somehow, it didn't. Because now the problem wasn't the ticket. The problem was everything else. The looks. The assumptions. The scene they had already created. Mr. Jefferson took his boarding pass back. Calm as ever. Then, without raising his voice, he said something that froze the moment. I believe we're past checking tickets. A quiet silence followed. Benjamin's eyes narrowed slightly. Excuse me? He asked. Mr. Jefferson glanced at his watch. A simple movement. But deliberate. Measured. Like he was keeping time. Then he looked up again. And said, calmly, let's not waste any more time. That was it. No explanation. No emotion, but something about those words shifted the air completely. Markin felt it. Benjamin felt it. Even Cynthia felt it, and for the first time, uncertainty crept in, because suddenly, it felt like they weren't in control anymore. And whatever was about to happen next was already in motion. The air around the gate had changed. No one was speaking loudly anymore. Even Ron Collins had gone quiet, watching with narrowed eyes. Markin Hill stepped slightly back as Benjamin Brooks pulled out his phone. I think we should escalate this, Benjamin said carefully. Cynthia Carter frowned. Escalate what? His ticket is valid. Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked past them, down the corridor, because I recognized that name. That line hit differently. Cynthia blinked. What name? Benjamin finally spoke, Mr. Jefferson. A pause. No confusion this time. Curiosity. Benjamin continued, his voice lower now. There's a message we were briefed on a few months ago, about a reserved first-class access list tied to private airport ownership stakeholders. The words didn't fully register at first. Then Markin frowned slightly. You're saying he's on some internal list? Benjamin nodded slowly, yes. And then it happened. A new set of footsteps. Fast. Controlled. Authority entering the scene. Everyone turned. A man in a tailored suit approached with urgency. Airport Operations Director. His name was William Howells. He stopped the moment he saw Mr. Jefferson. And everything in his face changed. Recognition. Shock. Then immediate respect. Mr. Jefferson, William said quietly. The entire gate went silent. Cynthia looked confused. Sir? Do you know him? William didn't answer her. He was already walking forward. And then, he did something no one expected. He lowered his head slightly. A gesture of respect. Not to a passenger. Not to a customer. But to someone far above that. "Sir," William said carefully, "I didn't realize you were arriving today." A wave of confusion hit the crowd. Ron Collins stepped forward. "Wait, who is this guy?" No one answered. William finally turned to the staff and said the words that froze everything completely: "This is Mr. Jefferson, one of the primary owners of this airport." Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Absolute. Everything they had done, every assumption, every whisper, every judgment, collapsed at once. Mr. Jefferson remained exactly as he had been the entire time. Calm. Unbothered. As if none of this surprised him at all. The silence at the gate felt heavier now. No one knew where to look. Cynthia's hands slowly dropped to her sides. Ron Collins cleared his throat awkwardly. Jason Mike stopped recording. Because the story had changed. Completely. William Howells turned slightly toward Mr. Jefferson. "Sir, I sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding," he said. But Mr. Jefferson didn't react immediately. He simply looked around the gate. Then he spoke quietly. "No one should be judged before they are understood." That line landed harder than anything else. Cynthia stepped forward slightly, her voice trembling. "Sir, I'm truly sorry. I thought," she stopped. Because she couldn't finish the sentence. Mr. Jefferson looked at her calmly. "I know what you thought," he said. Mark and Hill exhaled slowly. "I acted based on assumptions," he admitted. "That was wrong." Benjamin Brooks nodded once. "I should have verified sooner," he said quietly. Ryan Cole tried to speak, but stopped. Because he realized how weak it sounded now. Mr. Jefferson turned slightly toward him. "Thinking is not the problem," he said, "it's how quickly you decide someone's worth based on what you see." William Howells stepped forward again. "Sir, we can arrange private boarding immediately." Mr. Jefferson raised his hand slightly. "That won't be necessary," he said. "I boarded this plane the same way everyone else did." Everything changed after that. No more whispers. No more laughter. Only silence. Before leaving, he paused. Then said, "One last thing, in life, people will always see what they want to see first. But judgment made too quickly always reveals more about the one who judges." And with that, he walked away. Unshaken. Certain. He never raised his voice. He never demanded respect. He never proved anything in anger. And yet, he controlled the entire room without ever trying to. And in the silence he left behind, everyone understood. Respect is never about appearance. It's about awareness. And those who forget that often learn it too late.